Greetings and salutations to our fine podcast audience. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great. Braves won last night, so
I'm so happy.
Up
I can't stand it.
1-0. Of the three of us, two of us care about that.
Exactly.
Great. I always like winners.
But I will say the NBA Finals, which I know you care about.
I did care about. They were over. Yeah, the last game. I'm a Heat fan, and it was a bit.
It was bloody.
It was bad. You know, they embarrassed LeBron 2 times, and I knew it was going to be fiery on Sunday night. I mean, they came out looking like LeBron was personally going to murder them had they not scored.
I was watching it while watching the Rays and Yankees game, and at one point when they were up 30 in the third quarter, I was like, "Oh, this is bad for a championship game."
It was bloody. It was the first time I really think the Lakers played like a championship team. Everybody was firing on all cylinders, and it was fun for the first quarter watching them. Yeah. I mean, it was not fun for me. I was very angry the whole time, but it was still.
They put up a noble fight in games 3 and 4.
5, 3. 5. I mean, I would say 3, 4, and 5. They played. They won 3 and 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. He's the GOAT, man. He's the GOAT.
The NBA is delaying the start of their season this year until December.
I
believe that's
it,
right. They normally start at the end of October, but I think they're
it would
waiting.
already have started.
That's a short off season there.
Yeah.
They always have a short off season. Yeah. It's normally
but it's June. It's June to October normally.
Well, but not for those guys. They start playing in the summer league in July, and they start. Right. I mean, those guys are playing all the time.
This is what you tune in for: sports talk with Ed, Jason, and
Ed. That's right. There you go. But so the Braves have won.
We're happy. Yeah.
Game 1
of the National League Championship Series.
So this is the championship for the National League,
yes.
And then whoever wins this is going to the World Series.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. This is as far as we've been since 01?
2001.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a long time.
19 years.
I feel like because I grew up.
We haven't made it to the league championship since 2001.
2001.
Yeah, true.
Was that the last time we made the World Series?
We made the 99 was the last World Series.
Oh wow.
So I was a young fella in the 90s, I'm back to that place.
I also was a young fella in the 90s.
We all were. But I'm back to that place where I feel that excitement, that hope that I had when I was, young in the 90s, and I'm afraid to have it again. I'm
afraid of getting hurt again.
I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant.
Getting a little triggered, Jason.
Well, now that you mentioned triggered.
That's right.
We'll be getting to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, fun question from our virtual lobby this weekend that I thought I would be interested to hear your take on. All right, here we go. What is your preferred vacation style? Are you the kind of person that wants to be busy all the time on your vacation?
No.
Or go on some adventure? Or are you just like, lazy and want to just eat food all the time?
Are you talking about if it's just me by myself, which ain't ever.
I was going to say, how many times have you been on vacation, just you?
That's not ever happened, because when I was by myself, I didn't have no money.
So hypothetical situation.
Okay, so me and Becky on vacation. So now we have to. No, I want to. On our vacations, I do not want to have too much of a plan. She likes to have lots of plans, but she doesn't want to be super busy. But she wants to have a plan for the unplanned time.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Whatever that means.
I would rather just there be no plan, except I'm going to read, and we're going to find really good food to eat. That's for me is a vacation.
You're a foodie kind of.
And it doesn't matter to me. The place is not near as important to me as it is to other people.
Yes. I'm almost identical to that, and I thankfully married a woman who's the same, and we are all about, we don't care where we go, we care about where we stay.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
Yes, I
want a nice place.
I want to stay at a nice place.
I need Airbnb guy or
no.
I have been now. Becky and I have now done Airbnb twice and have really liked it.
Okay.
If they're nice enough, which they often are.
Often are.
Yeah, I mean, because you can choose them like you can choose anything else.
So you're like a resort kind of guy?
Yeah, we like to find a good resort. We don't care where, but find a good place to stay, and then, like Ed said, just find some really good food. And then the rest is just
mountain guy.
My wife's more of a beach person, so I like to be with her.
Yeah,
If
Only
I
way
had
to do it, man.
if I had my choice, I would be somewhere where I could hear running water, not like the house is
You
leaking.
just turn the faucet on.
Not like the house is leaking or any of that plumbing problems, but that if I stepped outside, there would be
Very peaceful.
a peaceful babbling brook,
Nice.
kind of mountainish
Nice.
kind of thing. But
I'm
I
as
don't
well.
want to be in anywhere where it's cold, so those are often a problem.
I would have always said I'm not a beach guy, but we went to Myrtle Beach just recently, and I did like. And we luckily we were at a condo, which was it wasn't Airbnb, it's whatever the other VRBO. Or
Oh, yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing.
It is the same thing.
It was at a condo, and it was right on the beach. I mean, we just had to walk across the street to get there, and so it was nice waking up and going out and sitting out and reading on there. I would have always said that I am a couch potato, kind of just want to relax and watch. And maybe that's true, but I think now that I've got kids when I go on vacation, and almost all of my kids have ADHD, so it's like sitting around the house actually becomes very aggressive
difficult.
very soon because
Yeah.
they're very bored. I don't get to just lay on the couch and watch whatever I want to watch, so then I'm watching cartoons, and then I'm irritable. So we've learned, I think, and this also very much fits my personality in the Enneagram. I like being on the move and getting to do stuff. So, and not necessarily going and doing things, but I actually enjoy the travel part. And I always have. I remember that. I've always liked being in the car, going places, stopping, all that kind of stuff. And our girls did so well on our last one where we were able to kind of set them up with movies and stuff, which we always said we weren't going to do, but when you got 4 kids talking in the back, we were like, man, getting that movie going.
I
It
tell
was
you
nice.
what, you eat your words a lot as a
Yeah,
parent.
that's part of parenting.
It
Yes.
is.
So we were like,
What do you enjoy? All the words I said before I was a parent.
that's right. yes.
They're my favorite food.
Yes. So we set them up, and then me and my wife could talk while we were driving, or we could do our own thing. And so I would say I'm probably more of like I think one of the choices I remember because I was typing them in on the online service, it was like adventure seeker. That's more me. I want to be able to come back and say I did something.
Okay.
So that's me.
All right.
Yeah. It does definitely change once your kids are gone because we did a
was gonna
lot.
say. Same for
In
me.
our family, Nathan's brothers, we have one that is very much we need to have a plan and it needs to be active.
Right.
The plan cannot be we're going to stay here today and maybe watch a movie and go get something to eat. And
Yes.
That can't
Which
be.
is funny though, and now that he has children, he's more of a I want to go somewhere and just kind of relax and be at a place. And now that I have children, I'm like, God, we got to get out of the house
gotta
because
move.
I was more like, let's just lay and hang out.
I will say Becky and I typically we like cities. If I had to make a choice, I'm going to go. If I have to go between beach, I like to go somewhere I can go learn I'm a learner, so museums are big for me.
Yeah,
I love to
me
go to
too.
museums. I love to.
See, we're not. We hate museums.
Oh my goodness, I love
Can't stand 'em.
museums.
Before we had kids, my wife and I, whenever we went anywhere, that's what we did: a museum or some kind of national park or some kind of thing like that. Some once again, a place I could go and say I was there. Like we went to the on this one, my girls were excited. We went to the Ripleys Aquarium in Myrtle Beach.
Oh yeah,
The biggest waste of $160. I mean, I hate that. I guess we're not going to get sponsored by Ripley's Aquarium
Oh,
in
darn.
Myrtle Beach.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, it was.
where water runs up.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It wasn't that. It was just less fish. And anyway, my kids were excited for a little bit. And then, of course, as every kid among 8, once you've paid the $160 and you're in there for 15 minutes, they're ready to leave.
They want to run through the
Yes,
aquarium
and I
as
go,
fast as possible.
Well, we paid a lot of money getting this aquarium. You guys are going to look at every
gonna
shark,
enjoy this.
every starfish. We're stopping. We're looking. We're learning something about this starfish. So that was not fun for them. But
Awesome. All right, on to the more serious fare,
Okay.
which is what
More
everybody's
serious.
here for.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes.
We'll be shocked to learn they don't care at all about our educated answers on anything. They care about that nonsense.
Our viewership's about to go down.
That's right.
Y'all tell us what you care about.
That's
Well,
right.
you know the good part is we can just see it on YouTube.
Yes,
we can
we'll know
watch
when
when
you stop
watch it.
watching.
Yes. Okay. Here's a question that I've heard a lot
right.
throughout the years because it's a conundrum for some people, and I get it. It's a big word. Isn't it?
It is
Ed
a
laughed
big
at my big
word.
word.
And you're piling this one on. I don't know if
You
we're
are
able to
really
answer.
I am.
a conundrum.
Yes.
We have the answer.
Yes. So people have asked me throughout the years, okay, so why is it that God doesn't make himself more clear, more visible? And I think what people mean when they ask me that question is, I know I'm supposed to have faith, but why didn't God just show up and show himself to me, and then I wouldn't have to believe? You know what I mean? I wouldn't have to have so much faith. They asked the question in terms of, I think it would be better if God just showed himself in a more visible kind of way. So who wants to go first on that? Why I have a few thoughts, but
I also have a few thoughts.
go ahead.
But
And
I'm
start
okay.
your,
We'll let
start your
somebody else.
thoughts.
I only want to preface it with one thing,
Okay.
'cause this isn't a full answer to the question.
Okay.
And I know there's more details to this, but I do think it's important to say, when you say, like, why doesn't God just show up and appear? That is the basis of the Christian faith, though, is that we do believe
yes.
that God did show up and he
Yes.
did make himself clear with Jesus on the cross in the person of Jesus. Now, I get that's probably not the question that you're asking. You're asking, why did God not
It's
personally
it's a
come to me?
personal-
But
Well,
I do think it's just important to preface with that idea.
And let's be really clear that even when that happened, not everyone who saw him personally
Absolutely.
did have faith.
In fact, I was
Which
just
probably
reading.
gets to one of our reasons. That,
Well, yeah, and I was just going to say the chapter that I'd read in my discipleship group today was an instance from the book of John where people were literally coming to Jesus after he had just performed a miracle, by the way, the loaves and fish, and they said, now you need to, why don't you show us a miracle so that we will believe in you?
Yeah.
And they had actually been there.
they did
for,
witness
That's right.
one.
They wanted something for themselves, so that's always been the case, I think.
That ultimately, I think, is the answer. When I can remember years ago, I wound up having a conversation like this, and then I did a message called "Seeing Isn't Believing," because I think we all think if I saw it, I'd believe it. But you see stuff all the time that you choose not to believe.
Right.
The truth is, believing is seeing. I believe something is true, and I look for it. I begin to see it everywhere around me. Because Christians and non-Christians see the same things. Christians and atheists see the same things and draw different conclusions.
Yes.
The evidence is the same.
Yeah.
So one person says that's coincidence. The other person says that's God. One person said Jesus is the Son of God. The other person said, no, he's a devil.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not seeing is believing. We once I take a step of faith, what I see changes. And I think it's the nature of humanity. It's true with human beings. There are people, for most of us, I guess I can't say 100% because I'm not in everybody's head. I'll say this of me. There are people I see, and I'll look at them, and I'll watch them for a while. I don't know them very well. This is going to tell you more than you want to know. It sounds really judgmental. I bet most people are this way. I don't know you very well. I'll watch you, and I'll draw a conclusion about you. I don't really have evidence other than what I have seen. And I either say, that's a really nice person. I don't know anything beyond what I have surmised about a little bit of evidence. I don't know for sure they're a nice person. Or there's other people watching the same person and go, that dude's a fake.
Sure.
They also don't have any more evidence. I am drawing conclusions out of what I see. So I've always said, I don't believe for me that if God showed up in front of me, unless he came as the appearance of what I have in my head. I mean, it'd have to be, which again, if he was God, and even then I would think, because I know too much, I'd go, dude, you just had a psychotic episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And
You
I've
just
heard
had
people
a
say that.
You had a psychotic episode right there.
I just recently heard a question and answer session where someone asked, it was a person who was an avowed atheist, and they said, so could you tell us what would it take for you to see or experience for you to believe that God was real? And one of the things they said something like, well, I guess if a chicken learned to talk and taught me, physics or something like that, and it was something ridiculous like that, and they said, well, actually, like you just said, if that happened, I would question myself then. I would believe that I had gone crazy. So now you put yourself in a position where there really is nothing.
That's right. Once I've decided I need more proof, because a premise of Paul in the book of Romans is God has made himself evident to every person if you want to see it, which is why when people say to me, what about people who've never heard about Jesus? I believe God hasn't. I believe God's going to treat everybody fairly based on the evidence that they were provided with.
Absolutely.
And if you had never heard about Jesus and yet you were faithful to the evidence that you had, I think that's what Paul is getting at.
Well, and even this is not disagreeing with what you said, but even more than God will treat us fairly based on the evidence, we know God will treat us more than gracious based on the evidence.
That's what I should have said. I should have said God is going to treat us graciously because that's His nature.
Yes.
God is not withholding good from anybody who wants to have the good that God has. He is going way beyond that. What we often get is when people say God has not treated me fairly is they mean I wanted a Mountain Dew Zero and God gave me Diet Mountain Dew.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's the nature
or
of...
He gave me water. Or you know, I'm not trying to make light that I almost got it. Maybe they did have bad circumstances. You know, I'm just saying it's often I need this very specific thing, and then I've seen people get the specific thing and go, and this.
Well, and I think it's the nature of who God is in that. And I think this is really hard for us to understand. I mean, the more I talk to people about it, I think so much of our problems with God is God's basic passion and love for free will in human beings, in that He does not overwhelm us to a point. Because I think even with everything we're saying, there still are people, and I've even had these thoughts and questions of, okay, I get it, but He's God, so He can do anything. Why doesn't He just make it so abundantly clear that no one could deny? And within that question is the answer, which is then no one could choose to deny.
That's right.
And
He would cease to be loving.
Right, because love requires me.
Or He would change. There would not be a human being.
Right.
What we know is humanity, and I get that there are people that don't believe. There's a whole world of people, if you don't know, not just religious people, atheists, that don't believe free will exists.
That's right.
That we're just we're reacting out of our genes, reacting out of our chemistry,
Instincts
and our instincts and all of that. And so for them, one, you don't already believe in God, so this is not an honest question if you are an atheist who's wanting to know this, because you already decided that this isn't true, and you don't believe I have free will, so every explanation I make about that, you've already excluded any answer that I could possibly give you. But if you believe that I am actively choosing, like I chose this and Nathan chose that, and it wasn't because I could have I do like that too, and he does like this too, you know what I'm saying? But if those are the kind of things that we're left with, if God eliminates that, I am some other kind of being.
That's right.
I'm not a human.
And at its core, as you said, it's a love issue, and God does not. God allows us the right to choose what we want to, how we want to perceive the world. You know, we're talking about triggered. That's all part of that. How I want to perceive the world. How I want to perceive reality and truth. And if I really do want to believe there is no God, there is nothing beyond what I can see, as you said earlier, I can look at all the evidence and make a compelling case for that being the case. Because in the end, when you know, the way English language works, I am compelled to want that because I've told myself that's what I want. There's something that's telling me. But if I genuinely, there's something within me that sees all this and goes, and I believe from the Spirit of God that's compelling me, is drawing me towards it, then I can look at the same evidence and I can see God's hand at work. So I understand even, that's probably another question another time then, so aren't we just choosing? Yes.
Yeah, we are.
That is the nature of free will, is that I get to choose. And God, by His nature, allows me to choose, and I can then choose not to. And so I think when you
But
get
I'm choosing that with everybody, too, not just with God. I've been married, next year will be 41 years. I choose to continue to believe that Becky loves me, though there have been enough in 41 years that if I chose to believe that she doesn't, I have enough evidence.
Well, sure.
You know what I'm saying? I have way more than enough evidence to prove that she does. I also have a mountain of evidence that says that she doesn't. I've known you your whole life. I've known you for more of your life than you haven't known me. I have plenty of evidence to say we are going to be committed to each other our whole life long. But if that ceased to be true, I would say to myself, I should have seen that coming. You know what I'm saying? Because
I should have looked at that other evidence.
I should have looked at that other evidence because that's the way that is.
Yeah. So, all right, on to our Sunday discussion. You cut it right there, Joel. All right. Uh,
Joel was not recording.
he wasn't paying attention.
Joel was compelled not to listen to this.
Yes. All right. So Ed talked about triggers and how we get triggered and all that stuff. And I thought it was interesting. And I just thought I'd ask this question. One of the first things you said when you started the message on Sunday with this idea of triggers is that being triggered, or that language that we use, tends to be kind of sensitive to a lot of people these days.
It's a trigger on both sides.
It is a trigger in and of itself. So I was just wondering, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Why is that?
I don't know if you all noticed in the service, whichever one you were in, I'm not trying to take attendance on either one of you, that people laughed at the word when I first said it, and then I said, "Hey, I'm not going to be making fun of this." And then I could tell, oh
yeah,
they were a little triggered about that.
Yeah.
The whole thing is it's interesting to me how everything in our world is so incredibly divided.
Yes, and very sensitive.
Very sensitive.
It feels as if to wade into almost any topic these days, I'm very cautious,
Yes.
and I don't know why that is.
Well, and I think when you talk about the term trigger too, I think it's interesting that I think just how everything in our world gets so easily politicized. There tends to be one side that of the political. So I'll just say on the left tends to be the ones that people tend to point at and go, "You're so easily triggered."
That's right.
Triggered's the word. You're so sensitive is the word. But I would say based on even what you're saying, people as well, just as much on the right are easily triggered. They just don't use the word.
Well,
they're just as easily offended, but it's just about different things.
Yeah.
And as when you talk about
the fact that it makes me offended that you're so easily triggered
Right.
is evidence that you
are triggered.
right,
that I had to tell you how sensitive you are, and I had to call you a name over it is evidence that I also have the same thing happening.
I think at its core, the reason why it comes out, and this may be such a high level that it's not helpful, but I think at its core, why it happens is because of how hyper individualistic we are. And what I mean is, I tend to really only care about seeing the world through my lens, and I think that happens really in every environment. And so certain words or certain events or certain actions I do view solely through my lens, and either I become very offended based on something you said that may not have been meant to trigger me because I only can see it through that lens, or on the other side, I may do or say something to trigger you. You tell me it, but because I'm only care about viewing it through my lens, I go, "That's your problem. You got to deal with it. I didn't say anything." And so it's easy to make triggers a laughing matter because I go, "Wow, you're so sensitive," but I don't care about seeing the world from your point of view. Vice versa, if I'm the one who's often very triggered, I can only see it through my lens and go, "Well, maybe they didn't mean it that way, or maybe that didn't happen." And I think really what Jesus invites us to is a world where, and this is where I mean very high level, where the way it gets talked about in theology is a Trinitarian worldview, which means the three persons, that we live in this communal relationship with God and other people, that I am sensitive to your needs, as if you were me, as if you were a part of me. And so when you come to me and say, you talk about marriage, when my wife comes to me and says, "Hey, when you make jokes about this thing, or when you talk about this in public, or when you do this," and I know you don't mean anything by it, which I'm sure all of our wives, and we may have even said to them, my wife has said it to me, so I know you don't mean anything by it, and there's this thing in me that gets very, I don't mean anything by it, so really, that's on you.
It's your
You've
problem.
got to figure
So
it out.
why bring it up to me if
right.
you know I didn't mean anything by it?
Right. As someone who is as marriage is very much this, I don't want to use maybe symbiotic is not the right, but we are one. We are one
right. That's right.
flesh. There's a part of me that has to go, if this hurts you, then it should hurt me. Therefore, I'm going to stop because I don't want to hurt myself.
And as your wife, she should, as the oneness you are supposed to have, she should be able to bring that to you.
Correct.
And it be okay. And so, and you do have that reaction, and both of you come at it from together and come to the middle and work on it together. That's the way it's supposed to be done anyway.
And that and that really is the difference with the Christian worldview, that is the way we should approach every relationship, is that when you come to me in this vulnerable state and you say, this does trigger me. Now, it may be that because of your past, there certainly is work you need to do on your part, so you're not as easily triggered. But as someone who loves you, I certainly wouldn't go, "Oh, that's the button."
Thanks for telling me. Now I'll be hitting that a lot.
Right. It's why it's never made sense to me when people say they now want to be called this,
Right.
and like it's a bad thing. I'm going, okay. They just clarified to me. I mean, if you had a nickname that I'd known the whole time, and you finally have the courage to say to me, "I don't like that nickname," and I continue to call it to you, I mean, I'm not just going on, well, you used to be okay. No, I've never been okay. I just finally got okay telling you that's a problem for me. That's not a problem for you. That I should just, if I love you, I'm going to go, okay.
Yes. And I think on the other side, so we were talking about it, if something does trigger me, it is natural for me to want to put that off on somebody else and say, you need to fix what you're doing. Once again, not saying that, as you said, I should be able to say, hey, this triggers me, but I should also have hey, because we're in this oneness relationship, I don't want you to have to carry the whole weight. So let me fix my side of it, you fix your side of it, and we'll both be better for it.
It's the whole thing we said in the last 2 series ago, the whole plank into your eye kind of thing.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's where it starts. I got to figure out my stuff without putting it on you before I can then work it out to you know, with your stuff.
We both have a responsibility. That's not, I mean, Jesus never says, don't tell the other person about the speck in their eye.
That's right.
He says, get the
He says,
plank
then.
out so that
That's
you
right.
can help him get his.
So you can see clearly.
You can see clearly then. I can see clearly then to help this guy.
Yep. So we've been working on this series for several months now, and we're now just presenting it to the church. And I know this is true for you guys because it's true with me. As we do go through that process, I learn a lot.
Oh, me too.
And so I just thought it'd be interesting to start, as we're starting it off, what's the one thing out of your prep of this and delivering of it and preparing it that you have learned, maybe about yourself, just maybe about the whole topic? What would you say is the big thing you pulled out of it personally?
I'll let one of you all go first. I have one, but I'm going to let one of you all go first, unless you don't have it yet. You want to think about it?
No, I was going to say that for me, it was getting real clear on, in part of the series that we're gonna slow down and say, okay, it's very important that you start to ask yourself, why is this a trigger for me? And I've become way more aware of those kinds of things in the past several months that I've been thinking along these terms and asking that kind of question. And it's really helped me to see there are some things that it just always has bothered me, or it always has led me to anger or to frustration. And I don't remember, one of us says in the series, it's really, I think you said it on Sunday, Ed. You said, the fact that you blow up at a child, a toddler who spills a drink, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because that's what toddlers do.
That's right.
And so now I look at it as a parent, I look at that and I go, well, I am triggered by that. And that's important to say, because that then puts the onus back on me. And I'm saying, okay, what is it about me and whatever it is in my past, or whatever it is that I feel or I'm thinking right now, my headspace, wherever I'm at, that causes me to react, because this is a complete overreaction.
Yeah, a child doing what it's natural for a child who hasn't had as much experience with glassware
Or whatever
they're with that they spilled or they made an accident with. We would all go if we were watching somebody else going, hey, dude, they'll learn.
Yeah.
They will learn.
Well, and that's critical to them learning that spilling the drink, that's one thing. So you talk about spilling the drink. That is the stage of parenting I'm in.
That's where you're at. I know.
Is little kids making normal mistakes. And it's hard, especially if it's the 5th time they've spilled the drink doing the same thing, that you don't go, now it feels intentional, because you're applying this thing. But what I have to remind myself is this is part of them learning not just how to not spill drinks, but how to handle their mistakes. And if what I bring to the situation, talking about triggers, I could create a trigger in them by every time blowing up at them. What they've learned is, don't come to Dad when I make a mistake.
Sure.
Because I made an honest mistake.
You better be right. You better be perfect.
You better
do it right.
don't
Dad
mess it
only
up.
cares about being perfect.
Right. And so, going off what you said, it
Yeah.
is what they do, and they're God put me there to teach them how, in a loving, patient way, not to make those mistakes. Like here's
And to say to you, hey, part of being human is
Yeah.
you can intend the best thing and not bring about the perfect results.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
We all take care of each other when that happens.
Yeah. So in that process, I was going to say, using that as an example, it has caused me to kind of look at the ridiculousness of some of the reactions that I have to very common everyday things, or maybe just even common everyday things that people say. And then and you always know what that is. You get that little thing,
Yeah.
that little twinge in your gut, and now that I know my Enneagram style, I'm a gut person. I never used to think I was a gut person. I used to think I was a brain person. I kind of wanted to be, but I'm not.
That seemed more perfect.
It seemed better to me to be a brain person, but I'm not. I react from the gut. And so now I'm asking, okay, why does your gut get all twisted when he says that, or when she does those things? What is it about you? And I'm still doing that work. I'm trying to figure out. I even said this in a meeting we were in this past week. I'm understanding some things that are triggers for me, and now I'm trying to go back and figure out, was there something that caused that? And maybe figuring that out for me will help me to react better. But it already is. Even the process that I'm going through now already is causing me to react better.
And I'll say to you, Jason, because I'm also I have all that work going on too. Just that process is what we talked about with Planck and Speck and all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
When I start with why does it with me, now I can work on it, because at the end I may go, hey, I do care about this other person. I probably should, if I get to the end and go, okay, I fixed my side, but what they say probably isn't still 100% the way they ought to do that. So
Right.
now I can go talk to them without acting like, hey, spilled milk is the same as murder. This is just a thing you say, hey, man, let's talk about if there's a different way to do that.
Well, and then I get to approach them with the very humble attitude of, hey, I know I'm wrong
Right.
on this part right here.
And I'm trying to fix that.
Yeah, and my reaction was wrong, and I'm going to own that part.
Right.
But can we now move to the rest of that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Now that I've owned my part, can we get to the rest of it? So,
And since if I do it rightly, which I haven't been able to do, like I said Sunday, it took me way too long. It takes what it takes, but
yeah, it does.
it took me too long to get where I realized I don't have to be that way. I can react differently. I can then look at them, and if I have that conversation and they don't handle it well, I go, I just triggered them. And it's okay. I can still love them no matter how they react, and give them time on the other side of that to do whatever it is they need to do without being condemning and unloving.
Well, don't you think that's, once again, just going back to Jesus' teaching, don't you think that's why it's so central to Jesus, this whole idea of us removing anger and judgment? Because all of that, and honestly, it's very freeing. And it's not just freeing because I'm not angry. It's freeing because I finally get control of something that Jesus did create us. I think we often look at Jesus' teachings of turning the other cheek or loving your enemies as a very passive way to go through the world, which is just stuff happens to me and I just have to deal with it. I get triggered and I got to do my part, and then they get to do whatever they want. But really what Jesus is inviting me to is I can't fix them anyway, because I can do all my right part of doing my part, come to them, they go, nope, that's on you. But now what I've done is, because I've done my part, they don't get to trigger me as much. They may continue to do all the things, but I'm now in a healthier place where I get to do what I need to do, and may have to put some different kind of boundaries in my relationship with them, but at the same time, I'm now at a healthy place where I can do that. And what Jesus invites us to is this world where I don't, once again, talk about Trinitarian love. I get to exist in a place where people aren't rivals that I have to beat, or objects that I got to, you got to act all the exact right ways. I was talking with someone after the service, which is, I didn't realize how much my house was based around everyone else doing all the right things not to make me mad. And I thought,
wow.
Is that not true for most of us?
And that's a great place to start.
That
for that
realization
person.
of
That's
that
huge.
is it is.
Oh, man.
Yes, that so much of my life is, and I would say this, I'll say this because I know two versions of this, which is everything's around making sure mom or dad doesn't lose it. Mom is trying to make sure dad doesn't, or dad's trying to make sure mom doesn't, and all the kids kind of know we got to do it. Or, and I've seen it the other way, there's one child
That's right.
that becomes, Everyone, mom and dad are making sure child doesn't lose it. Brothers and sisters figure out, well, we got to do whatever because the world's going to just be bad. And for the people who are doing that and the person themselves, it is not only unhealthy, it is not the way we were intended to live.
It really is impossible to fully love them. You feel like you're loving them, but you're not full because there's a part you can't deal with. I was thinking, and I hadn't really had this thought while you were talking about the Trinitarian thing, which you mentioned earlier, and then you were talking about that whole thing. When I can get to the place that I can deal with my stuff, and God invites me into the world, which is the truth of the world that he created of, I can tell them the truth, but I can't fix them. That I am being invited into the Trinitarian because God is the same way. Yeah. God decides there are going to be these beings in the world that I create with free will. I'm going to tell them the truth always. I'm going to fully love them no matter what.
Serve them.
And I'm going to be full of both of those all the time. The moment that I can fix my stuff and I deal with my triggers and go, okay, now you still have a part. Let me deal with it, talk to you about it. Whether you fix it or not, I can still fully be for you and give you space. Whatever you decide, I have moved more into the kingdom of God at that moment. And it didn't really hit me with that language until you were talking about it a minute ago, so I appreciate that.
And I think that's key, too, and I heard someone say this morning when I was listening to a sermon. They were talking about when you said the thing about I love you and I serve you, but, there's a way the world is. We very much, because of the nature of our church, we love the recovery community, and central to at least the 12-step groups and AA groups is this serenity prayer. And in it, one of the parts is I take the sinful world the way it is, not the way I would have it be.
Yes.
And that is so central. And it almost every time I say it, and this is probably my Enneagram type more than anything, it feels wrong because I go, no, I'm bringing the kingdom of God, so I'm bringing it the way it should be. But so central to what Jesus did is he entered the world the way it is. Yeah. And he goes, I'm going to affect, and really the way Jesus and God affects changes, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to love. I'm going to serve. I'm going to bring myself in humility and weakness. And we're not perfect as God is. So part of that for us is the humility and weakness is doing the work on my broken, because I don't just take, I am part of the sinful world that is the way it is. So I have to take myself the way I am. And, I even heard you say this, and I deal with this so much in my life. I'm sure all of us do, which is you said it took me way too long to get it, and then you corrected and maybe it just took me as long as it is. That is so, we have to give ourselves the same amount of grace and truth in that, you may be watching this and you hear like the examples we give of the damage it does to our kids when we do stuff like this. And I know I feel this just, I'm on staff and I know there's damage I'm doing to my kids because it's the nature of being a sinful human interacting. And I have to, what I'm trying these days to do is when God convicts me of something that I've been doing wrong, instead of going to and going, I mean, that's the beginning. But the truth is the first thing I do is, thank you. Thank you that you showed it to me now.
Yeah.
And instead of going, why didn't you show it to me earlier? Because what I know is God has been showing it to me earlier.
It to me forever.
But now I see it. Oh, thank you that I get a chance to fix this now and I can go forward. Because unfortunately, if I live in I'm so broken, I'm so messed up, I'll never get it right, I don't get to move into the world the way it should be. So I take my world, myself, the way I am, even with my triggers. Because some of us, and I know this is future stuff, so this may be one of my answers to what I've been learning is so many of us don't want to deal with our lives the way they are. We want to pretend as if it didn't happen. And I think especially if you've had some significant trauma or some significant abuse, because of the nature of my family, some of my daughters have had significant trauma in their life, and they're very young, and they're beginning to process it. And there's a part of me loving them and helping them with theirs, which has helped me, is we have to deal with what is and what was. Because if we continue to just go, you know what, let's just move forward. And you said this today, which I thought was very good, about a different subject, but saying you were talking about a specific situation where someone's trying to build a good foundation without removing the bad foundation, and they're just going to build an even shaky life that you can't build.
You can have a great foundation, but if you move all the crap from your previous places into it, it's still going to stink really bad.
Right. And having this idea of a central part to dealing with the triggers is not knowing where to go. A lot of us know where we should be and what we should be doing. It's an unwillingness to acknowledge. And so even in myself, I have to look at that as there's things in my own self that I'm unwilling to acknowledge, and because I won't acknowledge it, I can't get healing for it. I can't move into where, and I keep making the same mistakes because I'm pretending like it doesn't exist and it doesn't happen. And so once again, with the serenity prayer, I very much live a lot with shame and pretending I am where I want to be. Like I am who I want to be, and I am where I want to be, and I know where I should be, and I know what I should do. And so trying to live with, but this is where I am, and that's okay, because today God is giving me all I need to get where I need to get tomorrow, and I don't got to worry about tomorrow. And if I trust in that enough, then I will one day be where I want to be. Or the truth is, this is one thing I've learned, I won't be where I want to be now. I'll be somewhere I didn't know I wanted to be. That was so much better than where I am right now.
That's exactly right.
So,
And I was just helping a friend of mine through that similar issue. They were very frustrated with the lack of progress that they had been making in their life. And but see, I know that this person has made a huge amount of progress in their life, but the fact that they were having that battle within them and that frustration of why do I keep screwing up, and why can't I get there faster, and I'm trying to help them to see and understand that you sitting there having that conversation with yourself is actually keeping you from the progress that you want to make, because it is not appreciating and understanding all that you have come through. And like you said, Ed, it takes as long as it takes. And I don't get to set the timeline. I don't get to decide. I just take one step at a time, and then I start. And then if I can look at where God has brought me, then I continue that track.
3 steps forward, 2 steps back really is 1 step forward.
Absolutely.
It's all okay.
Absolutely.
And you really can get where you want to go with that pace. I know it feels so frustrating. You had 3 steps and you go back. It's okay. You're still moving in the right direction, and that's what you have to do. So for me, and this isn't a new learning on this, but this rethinking about these things, putting it in a different way, and some new stuff, but the one that has really stuck with me is the whole idea of, so many of my triggers are my brain telling me a story that's pulling material from somewhere in my past to apply to this situation that doesn't apply, and really drawing really bad conclusions. And because of my nature, I trust me. So what my brain tells me, I believe. And I've been at places before where I've learned, you can't, I have to believe my beliefs and doubt my doubts and doubt my beliefs and believe my doubts. I have to do all of that to really get a full-formed thing. When I went back into this material, I go, that's right. I'm in the middle of this. This person's brain's telling them a story. I'm telling me a story. Only God has the third story truth out of that. I may be right in part about my part. They may be right in part, but I can still be wrong while being partially right.
That's huge.
And that's really, it helps me open my hands. Everything in my life that keeps me from clenching is a good thing for me. And holding on to the thought that, no, what you said was, and then the guy didn't say that. I go, well, what I heard was, that's a way better statement. What I heard was, because then it's me.
Every argument I've had goes better when I start with those kinds of sentences. My wife and I have really tried hard not to argue or disagree that way, not to say you did or you said. It's, here's what I heard you say.
This is what I heard, or this is what I thought was going on.
This is what that made me feel like.
Right.
I felt this, and
even like asking a question.
Or just
I
often
will just come and say, "What did you mean when you said this?" And
Yeah.
then I'm able to say, "Well, that's not what I said," or they'll be able to say, "If that's what I said, that's not what I meant. Here's what I meant." And then I go, because in the end, what you said or what you did, at least in very core relationships to me, is not as important as what you meant. Now, it's different in different things, but with my wife, what you said the reason I got as angry as it is because I thought you meant something that you may not have said.
That's right.
And when they explained
My brain
it to
heard
me,
what you said and told me a story about
yes,
it.
I know there are very extreme cases. I certainly don't want to get into that.
No,
but
no, no,
in most everyday arguments,
Yes.
it is the story I made up of what I thought you meant behind what you said. And once you explain that to me, and so anyway.
Well, because, and I'll go to even some extreme things because, again, for whatever reason, in my whole career, I've been put in situations where first it was physical abuse. I lived near people that were regularly being physically abused. They also tell themselves stories that get them stuck there, unfortunately, often. Mm-hmm. The ones that the first time a dude hits a woman and she's like, okay, I know what happened there, and that's the end of that. It doesn't move all the way to that guy can be prosecuted and all that stuff can happen. But the ones that go, I triggered, I did that, I deserved that.
Right.
He didn't mean it. Without ever asking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That also is a bad story that I'm
is.
telling myself about what's going on.
Yep.
I think one of the most practical things I learned out of Sunday, and I don't think I'd ever actually heard this. This was pretty brand new information, was the part about it takes 20 minutes for the hormones to get out of your body, which makes total sense because I commented online. We have a rebroadcast on Mondays at 7 of the service, and on Facebook and YouTube, and I was on Facebook talking with some people, and I made the joke of, I was always told wait 10 seconds, but I guess it's 1,200 seconds because I think that's just true. Like 20 minutes. That's so helpful to me because my personality, I'm very impatient and I'm very focused on efficiency. I remember one time my wife and I were having an argument, and it wasn't even like that big of an argument, but both of us were getting triggered and heated. It wasn't about anything important. And I remember saying, let's just stop this argument for now. And she said, why? And I said, because we're going to miss the movie if we don't. If we argue, it's going to take so long. We're going to be late to the showtime. She said, maybe we shouldn't go to the movie. Yeah. And realizing and I think we still went to the movie because at that point I was like, get in the car. We're getting out of here. We're going to go to the movie. But I think for me to learn, I do really need to take a break, especially when I'm feeling that emotional thing, and especially even because I feel like now that I've become a parent, and I don't know if it's just something once you become a parent where I feel like I gotta have quick answers to everything. They come to me with something, or there's a problem, I'm like, I gotta know right now what to do, or I hear a scream, or I see them fighting, and I'm like, I gotta come in. And instead of just saying, all right, y'all go sit there for a little bit, and I'll come back and we'll talk. I immediately institute some kind of consequence for that and then later on I'm like, wow, that was an overreaction. Why did you feel like you needed to do that? And so anyway, that was important.
I was going to say, you reminded me of something. And maybe y'all tell me if it's just me, because it might be just me, because I am mega screwed up in my head. Whenever my wife and I are in a very heated kind of argument moment, I get to a place, and I guess it's the amygdala, it's the hormones in me that are going crazy. I get to a point where I can even look at this person that I love more than any person on the planet, and I can feel as if there is no way that I am ever going, how in the world could I ever get back to that place where I felt love again?
Oh, yeah, so
feel
angry.
that.
It's like, I will be mad at you the rest of my life.
This is it.
Yes.
We are never coming back together on this.
It's about fish sticks.
Yeah, or something. And in my brain, that makes so much sense. I can look at this person, and then I can go and maybe it's 20 minutes, but maybe it's half a day, or whatever.
That's right.
That we separate, and then we come back, and then there's that moment where I look and I go, dang. Why? How could I have ever felt that way?
That's right.
Because how much love I have for this person, and how close I now want to be to this person that I wanted to be as far away from as I possibly could be. It proved to me your statement on Sunday of that is a chemical reactive thing that's going on in me, to just know that. And then maybe I can tell myself in that moment, this is temporary, and if you'll just give it time, this will get better.
If you can keep yourself from blowing too much and just go.
And don't say anything in the interim. Don't say something stupid that you're really going to regret.
Because then you triggered them, and now they got to have some time.
And you just basically, you're cycling through that, and it's getting worse and worse, and it's,
all of us, I guess every human's done that. Maybe not.
I think so. I think it's just.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah, it's not just
everybody.
Because then I feel really, really bad about myself.
I shouldn't say. Y'all can comment whether you've not done that. The three of us.
Yeah.
Maybe. Could be.
We might find out we're just horrible human beings.
Horrible human
we're
beings.
horrible people.
I just think that's why it's important to
I
have.
could bring people that would give evidence to that for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I could bring in people.
Our wives who don't listen to this podcast
That's right. They
could
know
all
some
come
stuff.
in and say that
they
about
know
us.
some stuff.
Okay. So this Sunday we're going to take step 2. And
Yep.
I don't guess there's anything else big we need to preview on that.
No, at the end of the message, if you want to hear what this is going to be, I told you what it's going to be this coming week, and might be good for you to back listen. In fact, I told you the whole series. I told you everything that we're all going to talk about for the next few weeks. Now, we didn't go into a lot of detail. We do have some more stuff that's important for you to hear.
And I would really encourage you. I think this is a series that is so shareable for people. I think certainly in a COVID season where we're all, I know everyone's at different stages of where we're going out and doing stuff, but we're more at home with people we love than we ever have been, and I think people are more triggered. Certainly what we're seeing in the world, we're all a little more triggered. And none of us like it. No one's like, you know what my favorite part of COVID has been? The hostility.
Well,
that's been my favorite part of this
and
COVID
part
season.
of the reason is, I think it's because of what we just described. I can't get 20 minutes away from you.
Yeah.
I get triggered. I can't get far away from you. And it just we keep on doing the cycle. Yeah.
So I'd encourage.
So I don't say. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I'd encourage you to share it with somebody. Share Sunday's message with people that you know.
So can I ask a question to Jason, who this is his team? So I don't want to blow anything. I know y'all are working on some stuff that will make it easier for people to share, but I don't know if that's ready yet. That's your team.
It's coming.
But not for this week. They won't see it this week that they can share?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
We're gonna have, regardless. There's always stuff you can share.
Yeah, there is always stuff.
No, you're not getting ahead of anything. We are.
I wanted to tell them how we're hoping they'll use it if it was going to be available.
We are working on some very short abbreviated versions of the Sunday morning message that you can share in a 4 to 5 minute segment with a friend that then will help them see, oh, that's maybe something I'm interested in, or maybe something I need to work on, and they'll want to come and hear more, and then they can click through, find the full service.
Right.
It's kind of like a teaser.
Yeah. 5 minutes is
I knew that was
watch.
coming at some point. I didn't want to put you all on the spot, but he was talking about sharing it. I know that's going to make it easier to share.
I hope that before the next podcast, you will have seen one.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay, so y'all watch for that on, I guess, both YouTube and Facebook.
That's the plan.
That they'll be available, and use that 4 or 5 minute thing as a way to, invite people to join.
I just want to say, Joel's helping me with this. He's really the one driving part of this for me. He's back here just shaking his head at me like, man, you just put me on the spot.
There you go.
I did.
Now you did. Producer Joel.
Well, that's the benefit of being a team leader.
That's right.
You can put people on the spot. So there you go.
We're
Producer
going to get
Joel.
that done.
So,
all right.
So please, but regardless, invite people to the
when you
Sunday
see
live
it-
stream.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, invite people to the Sunday live stream. That is obviously on demand. They can watch it whenever we have the services up there. But I'll just say their experience is better if they're in a live stream on Facebook. Get them in Facebook. It's better for them. It's better for us because we can contact them better. We can have better interaction with them on Facebook than we can on YouTube with whatever strange, Auburn fan or whatever name they have on their YouTube page or
and I'll just
Bama lover. I don't know.
Yeah. So just so we take some of the pressure off of Joel, because
No, let's put some pressure back.
I think
on
he
Joel.
likes it.
I
It's
just
okay.
want you all to tell Joel how thankful you are when he gets them done.
Absolutely.
In,
Thank you, Joel.
in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. All right, we're going to leave it right there.
It's good.
See y'all next week.